Well, what a great way to cure a Liverpool loss with a victory as Manchester City win 3-1 against a very valiant, very heroic Brighton and Hove Albion. Luis Miguel Echegaray, enemy here with Janusz, Michallik. Janusz, initial reaction here as Man City, Pep Guardiola, Erling Haaland doing his Erling Haaland things. I believe that is 16 goals now in the Premier League. Give me your reaction. 17, I'm sorry, 17. Forgive me, Erling Haaland. You just keep scoring. I can't keep track. Tell us, Janusz, what'd you make of Man City's win?
Yeah, before we even get to Erling Haaland, it's funny that you mentioned Liverpool, right? Because you and I have talked about this after their game, and they weren't at their best. And we asked some of the top players to come through when you're not at your best. I didn't think that happened in the Liverpool game in terms of Van Dijk and Salah chances. But here, you look at Erling Haaland, of course, the first goal, then the penalty, and then Kevin De Bruyne at a time it was 2-1 and the game was in the balance, stepped up with a brilliant strike from 25 yards top corner. Because Manchester City weren't at their best. They weren't at their best against Liverpool. That's obvious. And they weren't at their best here. But it's almost as if, that loss to Liverpool doesn't matter really, right? Because Liverpool losing today and Manchester City winning, it's back to normal service. Of course, I'm not forgetting about Arsenal, who are yet to play and are top of the table. We're top of the table before this. So, look, not at their best, but they find ways. Still very, very good and deep. A lot of changes in the starting lineup, as you'd expect, ahead of the trip to Dortmund to play against Borussia. Just a beautiful performance from key players.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Brighton in a second, because they did get back in it with Leandro Trossard, who's a tremendous player, got it to 2-1, and we thought they were in it. But you mentioned something before we began taping here, Janusz, and I wanted to bring it up. Ederson, of course, with that amazing assist for Erling Haaland. I believe he's the third goalkeeper to assist a goal in the Premier League this season, after Jordan Pickford and against Forest, Alisson against City, of course, and Ederson today. They can hit you in so many ways, I feel, Man City this time around. And to your point, not playing well, but because you have Erling Haaland and so many other weapons, do you feel that this is a now multi-dimensional Man City? Do you think this can be a success for them towards there's a long way to go, but towards the end of the season?
Absolutely. And this is something that they didn't possess. They always find a way to beat you, right? They would have played differently. I said it before, even if they didn't have Erling Haaland, I still think Manchester City would be a normal Manchester City with some false nines that continue to win in this league. But that adds extra dimension for them, right? And I saw people already questioning, oh, look at the way they go direct. But of course, you and I and many Manchester City or sports fans know that, Ederson has done that before. I remember on numerous occasions with Kun Agüero and others as well, where they play that ball out of the back, of course, and he's capable of that, right? I mean, that pass out of the back is better than some players could do. So he's got that, and you better prepare for it. They didn't, but this was Erling Haaland also at his best. That goal, to me, is Erling Haaland. Not so much the goals that he scored so far from 2-3 yards out, right? Majority of his goals are just tap-ins. I don't want to say tap-ins because that's not fair to him, because he does get to those places and you have to know how to time it and how to do that. But this is Erling Haaland with pace, with strength, right? The way he shrugs off Adam Webster, beautiful, right? And people are questioning that. Come on, that's the best shoulder to shoulder that I've seen. That's exactly what shoulder to shoulder means, because his eyes on the ball, he's going after the ball. He's not just pushing a player away, but saw a space in front of him, which he doesn't see very often now, because Manchester City are usually in possession, playing against teams that sit back as well. This is Erling Haaland, right? So it's just frightening when you can add that to their normal possession game.
Yeah, you should never, apologize for being strong, right? That's just strength from Erling Haaland right there. Tremendous goal. The second, of course, was a penalty. Very quick thoughts here on Bernardo. Obviously, the ref didn't initially give it. Then VAR told him to look at the monitor. He looks at it. He gives it. Thoughts on that one?
Thoughts on that one? They both knew what they were doing, right? Because it was, who was it? Lewis Dunk on.
Correct. Yeah.
One, I think he was beaten. He left that left foot in there, but I think Bernardo Silva knew what he was doing. I mean, he clipped himself onto that. That's why I don't know if I was in that booth, I would have done it. I think Robert Sanchez on Kevin De Bruyne early. I think there was contact. I think, to me, that was more of a penalty than this one as well. If I look at that at some stage, yes, both are conscious of their actions. That's for sure. Defensively, I've done that as well. When you've beaten like Luis Dunk, you kind of leave that foot in there, but it's stationary, right? I mean, there's ways for Bernardo Silva to get out of that. He didn't have to try to hook himself. So that's questionable to me at best. But I just think that ultimately, Man City would have found a way.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne, a cold game for sure towards the end there. Leandro Trossard scored the first 4 Brighton goals for Roberto De Zerbi in his year. He scored today, very quick on Brighton. I mean, they did fight, of course. It's a good team. I believe I think, Janusz, that they're still just learning under De Zerbi right now.
Well, it's kind of deceptive, right? Because in one way, we can appreciate what Brighton do, and Roberto De Zerbi, right? Plaudits are out there from everybody how good of a coach he is. We all remember him from Sassuolo as well, so he always plays that way. They play that way under Graham Potter as well. The deception comes in a couple of things. One is that, Brighton started in the top half of the table. I believe it was 8th place. They're winless in 5 games, right? So yes, it's looking good. And in this game for long periods of time, they gave Manchester City a run for their money. There's no questions about that. I think of them as Manchester City without Erling Haaland, because I still don't understand how Danny Welbeck hasn't scored a goal yet. Yeah. A good player, he should be scoring. They say, well, they need a striker. They have a striker that's been in Manchester City, Arsenal, who's healthy finally, right? And for me, who's capable of scoring goals. He hasn't. Leandro Trossard, that's his 6th. And funnily enough, De Zerbi has asked him to score more goals. And so he did today, because ahead of the game, I saw his comments that he should be scoring more goals. 6 is not bad at a team like Brighton. So, of course, they're very, very good. I think we're going to continue to see them getting better and better. But they need results. They need to get a win here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. But woe is me, because I took Trossard out of my fantasy team. So, cry me a river. Why did I do that? But anyway, Manchester City's second goal versus Brighton today, it was 3-1. But their second goal versus Brighton was their 600th in the Premier League under Pep Guardiola, becoming only the 3rd club to reach 600 plus goals under a single manager in the competition, after United and, of course, Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. But Man City get 3 points and chasing Arsenal as this Premier League race continues.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.